The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning at the International Space Defense Command headquarters in Geneva. Commander Rohan Patel stood before the holographic display, his weathered features illuminated by the strange symbols that pulsed with an otherworldly urgency. The message had been intercepted by the Deep Space Array in Chile, and after 3 days of intensive decryption, its contents sent shockwaves through Earth's scientific community. The Nexians, an advanced civilization from the Carina Nebula, were facing extinction. Their binary star system had become unstable, threatening to collapse into a destructive spiral that would obliterate their homeworld. Despite their remarkable technological achievements, they lacked the specific expertise needed to stabilize their dying stars. Their civilization is approximately 8,000 years ahead of ours in most areas, Dr. Jasmine Winters explained, her dark eyes scanning the data streams. As the lead xenophysicist at ISDC, she had spent the last 72 hours analyzing the Nexian transmission. But they've never faced a stellar crisis of this magnitude. Their technology evolved in a different direction than ours. Lieutenant Dmitry Volkov, the youngest member of the command staff, frowned at the holographic representation of the Nexian system. They're asking us for help. Earth? The species that's barely managed interplanetary travel. Sometimes the simplest solutions come from unexpected places, Rohan replied, his voice carrying the quiet confidence that had earned him his position. We've spent centuries studying stellar phenomena and developing contingencies for solar disasters. It's ironic, but our paranoia about our own sun's stability might be exactly what they need. The Nexians themselves were a species that had evolved in the upper atmosphere of their gas giant moon, developing bodies that could manipulate electromagnetic fields naturally. Their cities floated like vast, crystalline clouds in the swirling purple skies of their world. But now those same cities were being torn apart by the increasing gravitational fluctuations from their dying stars. We have something they don't, Jasmine continued, pulling up the schematics for Project Helios. The gravitational tether array. We developed it as a failsafe for solar flares, but with some modifications, it could theoretically stabilize their binary system. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Project Helios was Earth's most closely guarded secret, a network of devices capable of manipulating gravitational fields on a stellar scale. It had never been tested at full capacity, but the theoretical models were promising. The journey to their system would take 3 months at maximum burn, Dmitry added, his fingers dancing across the tactical display. That gives us exactly one chance to get there before their stars reach the critical point of no return. Rohan studied the faces of his team, seeing the mixture of fear and determination in their eyes. This would be humanity's first real test on the galactic stage. Their chance to prove they were more than just a primitive species clinging to their small blue world. The risks are enormous, he said, voicing what everyone was thinking. We'll be pushing our technology to its absolute limits. If we fail, we lose not only the mission but also Earth's best chance at proving itself to the galactic community. And if we do nothing, Jasmine countered, we watch an entire civilization die, knowing we might have saved them. The decision weighed heavily on Rohan's shoulders. The UN Security Council had given him full authority to proceed, but the responsibility for success or failure would be his alone. He thought of all the times humanity had faced extinction-level threats in its own history, the countless close calls with asteroids, solar flares, and their own destructive tendencies. Each time, they had survived through innovation, determination, and often, sheer stubbornness. Begin mission preparations, he announced, his voice firm with resolve. I want the Helios components loaded onto the Hyperion within 48 hours. Dr. Winters, you'll lead the scientific team. Lieutenant Volkov, begin crew selection immediately. As his team rushed to comply with his orders, Rohan turned back to the holographic message from the Nexians. Their plea for help, once decoded, was surprisingly simple. To the warriors of the young world, we seek your aid in our darkest hour. Your understanding of the stars may be our only hope. The irony wasn't lost on him. Humanity, Often dismissed by other spacefaring races as too aggressive, too focused on defensive technology, might be the only species capable of saving one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Their very paranoia, their constant preparation for cosmic disasters, had given them exactly the tools needed for this moment. "Send our response," he commanded the communications officer. "Message begins, people of Nexus, we hear your call. Help is coming. Hold on." The Hyperion rose from Earth's atmosphere on pillars of plasma, its massive frame gleaming in the morning sun. From his position on the bridge, Lieutenant Dmitry Volkov watched the curve of his home planet recede into the darkness of space. Behind him, the crew worked with practiced efficiency, each person acutely aware of the weight of their mission. "Primary engine sequence complete," reported Navigation Officer Zara Rahman, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. "Ready for FTL initiation on your mark." The Hyperion represented humanity's finest achievement in spacefaring technology. Originally designed as a deep space research vessel, it had been hastily retrofitted to carry the components of Project Helios. The modifications had pushed the engineering team to their limits, but they had succeeded in integrating the gravitational tether array into the ship's systems. "All sections report ready," Dr. Jasmine Winters announced from her station. She had spent the last 2 weeks training her scientific team on the theoretical principles behind the Helios technology. "Though I should note that the power coupling on Array Module 3 is showing slightly elevated stress readings." Dmitry nodded, making a mental note. "Engineering can compensate through the auxiliary systems. We can't afford any delays." The mission had already faced significant challenges before even leaving Earth. Several nations had opposed sharing the Helios technology with an alien civilization, fearing it could be reverse engineered and used against Earth. Others argued that the 3-month journey would drain too many resources, potentially leaving Earth vulnerable. But Commander Patel had stood firm, arguing that this was humanity's chance to prove itself on the galactic stage. His words to the UN Security Council had become almost legendary among the crew: "We can cower in our cradle, or we can rise to meet our destiny among the stars." Initiating FTL sequence, Zara announced, her voice steady despite the tension. The ship's massive engines hummed with power as exotic particles began to warp the fabric of spacetime around them. "Jump in 3, 2, 1. The universe seemed to stretch and twist as the Hyperion made its first faster-than-light jump. The crew, despite their training, felt the disorientation that came with FTL travel. But there was no time for space sickness. They had a civilization to save. Hours turned into days as the Hyperion pushed deeper into space. The crew settled into their routines, but the pressure never eased. Regular updates from Earth brought news of the deteriorating situation in the Nexian system. The binary stars were becoming increasingly unstable, their gravitational dance growing more erratic with each passing day. "New data packet from the Nexians," Jasmine called out during their second week of travel. "Their atmospheric cities are beginning to break apart. They've already lost 3 smaller settlements to gravitational shear." Dmitry felt his jaw clench. "How many casualties?" "The Nexians were able to evacuate most residents, but..." She paused, her voice tight. "Over 2,000 didn't make it." The news hit the bridge crew hard. They had all seen the holographic representations of the Nexian cities, beautiful, crystalline structures that floated like dreams in the purple skies of their world. The thought of those magnificent creations being torn apart, along with their inhabitants, was devastating. "Engineering reports a problem with the primary coolant system," Zara interrupted, her normally calm voice edged with concern. "The strain of maintaining maximum FTL is higher than our simulations predicted." Dmitry moved to her station, studying the readouts. The Hyperion was being pushed harder than any human vessel in history, and it was beginning to show. "Can we maintain this speed? If we don't reduce velocity by at least 15%, we risk a cascade failure in the engine core," she replied. "But if we slow down, we won't make it in time," Dmitri finished. The calculations were brutal in their simplicity. At their current speed, they would reach the Nexian system just barely within the window of opportunity. Any delay would mean arriving too late to prevent the stellar collapse. "I'm not slowing down," he declared, his voice carrying across the bridge. "Get me engineering. We'll find another way." The next 12 hours were a blur of activity as the crew worked to solve the coolant crisis. Engineers crawled through maintenance tubes, rerouting systems and installing emergency backups. Scientists ran countless simulations, looking for any way to squeeze more efficiency from their straining systems. The solution, when it came, was characteristically human, a combination of desperate innovation and calculated risk. They would vent their secondary oxygen tanks into space, using the explosive decompression to create an additional cooling effect for the engines. It was dangerous and would leave them with a razor-thin life support margin, but it would work. As Dmitri watched the emergency venting procedure underway, he thought about the Nexians. An advanced civilization that had mastered electromagnetic manipulation, created cities in the sky, and achieved wonders humanity could barely comprehend. Yet here was a crew of humans, working with duct tape and improvised solutions, racing across the galaxy to save them. "Status report," he called out as the venting completed. Engine temperature dropping to acceptable levels, Zara responded, relief evident in her voice. "We can maintain current speed." "Good," Dmitri said, allowing himself a small smile. "Because we're not done yet. Not by a long shot." The first visual contact with the Nexians came 2 months into their journey. The holographic communication system flickered to life, revealing a being of pure energy in crystalline structure. The Nexian ambassador, who introduced themselves as Resonance of Dawn, hovered before the stunned crew of the Hyperion. "Your vessel approaches with great speed," the ambassador observed, their form rippling with patterns of light that the translation software interpreted as emotional indicators. "We did not expect such swift response from your world." Dr. Jasmine Winters stepped forward, having prepared for this moment. "Time is critical, Ambassador. We understand your stellar crisis has worsened." The ambassador's form dimmed noticeably. 17 more cities have been lost to the gravitational storms. Our population is condensing into the largest remaining metropolis, but its shields cannot withstand the forces much longer. The data streams accompanying the transmission told the full story. The binary stars had accelerated their deadly dance, their gravitational fields tearing at the fabric of space itself. The Nexians' electromagnetic technology, sophisticated as it was, proved useless against the fundamental forces being unleashed. "Show them the helio specs," Lieutenant Volkov ordered, and Jasmine transmitted the technical data they had prepared. The ambassador's form pulsed with rapid patterns of light as they processed the information. "This technology, it's primitive by our standards, yet." Their light patterns shifted to what the translation software identified as astonishment. "You propose to directly manipulate the gravitational fields. Sometimes the simplest approach is the most effective," Jasmine explained. "We've spent centuries developing ways to protect ourselves from stellar phenomena. It's given us a unique perspective on the problem." The conversation that followed was a crash course in cross-species cooperation. The Nexians, for all their advancement, had evolved in a stable star system. Their technology had developed around manipulation of electromagnetic forces, leaving them blind to other possibilities. The human approach, born from centuries of watching their own sun with paranoid vigilance, offered a solution they had never considered. "We'll need to modify the Helios array to work with your city's power grid," Jasmine explained, sending detailed schematics. "The gravitational tethers must be perfectly synchronized or they could worsen the stellar instability." The next few hours were intense as human and Nexian engineers worked to merge their technologies. The Nexians' mastery of electromagnetic fields proved crucial in developing a power distribution system that could handle the massive energy requirements of the Helios array. "Warning," Zara called out from her station. "Long-range sensors detecting severe gravitational distortions ahead." The stellar disruption is affecting local spacetime. Dmitri studied the sensor readings with growing concern. The gravitational waves were creating a maze of deadly distortions between the Hyperion and their destination. One wrong move would tear the ship apart. Navigation computers can't plot a safe course, Zara reported, her fingers dancing across the controls. The gravitational fluctuations are too chaotic for automated systems. A moment of heavy silence fell over the bridge. The automated systems had been their safety net, designed to react faster than any human pilot could. Without them, crossing the gravitational storm would be nearly impossible. "I'll do it manually," Zara announced, her voice steady despite the enormity of what she was proposing. "I can feel the gravitational waves better than the computers. It's like reading the wind." Dmitri hesitated only for a moment before nodding. Sometimes human intuition, human instinct, surpassed even the most advanced technology. "The ship is yours, Officer Rahman. Take us in." What followed was a masterclass in human skill and intuition. Zara guided the massive ship through the gravitational maze like a dancer, feeling the push and pull of space itself. The crew watched in awe as she threaded the Hyperion through gaps that seemed impossibly small, her movements precise yet fluid. "Remarkable," the Nexian ambassador observed, their form glowing with what seemed to be admiration. "Your pilot navigates by feel, without computational assistance. We had not thought such a thing possible." "Humans have a way of doing the impossible," Jasmine replied, allowing herself a small smile. "Especially when others need our help." As they emerged from the gravitational storm, the full scope of the crisis became visible. The binary stars writhed in space like angry giants, their surfaces distorted by massive solar flares. Between them, barely visible against the chaos, floated the last great city of the Nexians, its electromagnetic shields flickering against the onslaught. "Beginning final approach," Zara announced, her voice tight with concentration. "Prepare Helios array for deployment." The moment of truth was approaching. Everything they had planned, every modification and calculation, would be put to the test. The fate of an entire civilization hung in the balance, waiting to see if humanity's determination and ingenuity would be enough to save them. The Hyperion's hull groaned under the intense gravitational forces as they approached the deployment zone. Warning indicators flashed across every console on the bridge, their urgent red glow reflecting off the crew's determined faces. The Helios array, their last hope for saving the Nexian civilization, waited in the launch bay. "Shields at 60% and falling," Zara reported, her hands steady on the controls despite the ship's violent shuddering. "We won't survive another solar flare like the last one." Dr. Winters studied the readings from the binary stars with growing concern. The stellar dance had become even more erratic, with massive streams of plasma arcing between the two dying suns. "The window for deployment is closing. If we don't act now, the gravitational forces will become too strong for the tethers to establish a stable field." Lieutenant Volkov made his decision. "Begin deployment sequence. Engineering, route all available power to the array." The massive doors of the launch bay opened, exposing the Helios array to the fierce stellar winds. The device, a masterpiece of human engineering, consisted of 12 synchronized gravitational tether units designed to create a stabilizing web around the binary system. "Array deploying," Jasmine announced, her voice tight with concentration. "Tether units 1 through 4 launching now." The first units shot out from the Hyperion, their guidance systems fighting against the chaotic gravitational fields. As they moved into position, thin beams of energy began to stretch between them, the first strands of their stabilizing web. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. "Massive solar flare detected." Zara shouted. "Impact in 30 seconds. "We can't abort the deployment," Jasmine said, her fingers flying over her console. "The array is too vulnerable during initialization. If we stop now, we lose everything." Dmitri gripped his command chair. "Zara, can you get us between the flare and the array?" Yes, but... She hesitated, understanding the implications. The shields won't hold. We'll lose the ship. Better the ship than the mission, he replied firmly. Do it. The Hyperion moved with surprising grace for a vessel its size, positioning itself to shield the deploying array. The solar flare struck with devastating force, battering against the ship's failing shields. Hull breach on decks 3 through 5. Engineering reported. Emergency containment failing. Reroute power from life support if you have to, Dmitri ordered. We hold this position until the array is deployed. Inside the Nexian city, residents of Dawn watched in awe as the human ship sacrificed itself to protect their mission. Your vessel cannot withstand such forces, they transmitted urgently. You must retreat. Negative, Ambassador, Dmitri responded, his voice calm despite the chaos around him. We came here to do a job, and we're going to finish it. The remaining tether units launched one by one, fighting through the maelstrom of stellar energy. As each unit took its position, the stabilizing web grew stronger, its influence beginning to calm the raging stars. Array deployment complete, Jasmine announced over the sound of buckling metal. Initiating synchronization sequence. The Helios array hummed to life, its gravitational tethers pulsing with energy. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The wild oscillations of the binary stars began to slow, their deadly dance gradually coming under control. But the Hyperion was dying. Multiple decks were exposed to space, and the remaining shields were failing rapidly. The crew worked frantically at their stations, knowing each moment they bought could mean the difference between success and failure. Synchronization at 60%, Jasmine reported. We need 3 more minutes to achieve stable field generation. Engineering reports critical damage to the primary reactor, Zara added. We're losing power. Dmitri looked around at his crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that he felt in his heart. Divert all remaining power to the array. Even life support. Give it everything we have. The lights on the bridge dimmed as power was rerouted. Emergency oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling as the air began to thin. But no one moved to put them on. All eyes remained fixed on their stations, monitoring the array's progress. Synchronization at 80%, Jasmine called out, her voice weakening in the thin air. The gravitational field is stabilizing. Outside, the binary stars began to settle into a new equilibrium, their violent outbursts diminishing under the influence of the Helios array. The web of gravitational tethers glowed with power, holding the massive stellar forces in check. 95%, Jasmine whispered. Just a little more. The bridge was nearly dark now, the only light coming from essential displays and the glow of the stars outside. The crew fought against unconsciousness, determined to see their mission through to the end. Synchronization complete, Jasmine managed to say. Field, stable. As darkness closed in around them, the last thing they saw was the binary stars pulsing with a steady, controlled rhythm. They had done it. The Nexian civilization was saved. And then everything went black. Consciousness returned slowly to Lieutenant Dmitri Volkov. The first thing he noticed was the strange quality of the light, it seemed to flow through the air like water, carrying hints of color he had never seen before. He was lying in what appeared to be a chamber made of pure energy, surrounded by the flowing forms of Nexian medical attendants. The humans are awakening, Resonance of Dawn announced, their forms shimmering with joy. Your crew's recovery has exceeded our expectations. The Nexians had rescued the Hyperion's crew moments before total ship failure, transporting them directly into their advanced medical facilities. The human body's resilience had surprised the Nexians, where other species might have perished, humanity's stubborn determination to survive had kept them alive. The array? Dmitri asked, his voice hoarse. Functioning perfectly, Jasmine answered from a nearby energy cocoon. The binary system has stabilized completely. The Helios technology exceeded all our projections. In the days that followed, the Nexians shared their gratitude in ways that transformed both civilizations. They had learned something profound from humanity, that technological advancement wasn't always the answer, that sometimes the simplest solutions required only courage and determination. "We have existed for millennia," Resonance of Dawn addressed the recovered crew. "Yet in our advancement, we forgot the importance of adaptability, of facing challenges with creativity rather than complexity. You have taught us this lesson anew." The Nexians offered humanity access to their vast knowledge repositories, but more importantly, they offered partnership. The combination of Nexian electromagnetic mastery and human gravitational engineering opened new possibilities in space exploration and energy manipulation. Commander Patel, watching the ceremony from Earth via quantum link, smiled as the Nexians bestowed their highest honor upon the crew, the right to establish a permanent human embassy within their great city. "Sometimes," he mused, "the strongest bridges between civilizations are built in moments of crisis." The Hyperion's mission became legend, not just on Earth but throughout known space. It marked humanity's emergence as a respected member of the galactic community. Not because of their technology or their power, but because of their unwavering determination to help others, even at great risk to themselves. As Dmitri stood at the observation deck of the new human embassy, watching the binary stars dance their now peaceful ballet, he remembered something Zara had said during their darkest moment: "It's not about having the most advanced technology. It's about having the will to use what you have to make a difference." The stars pulsed steadily, held in perfect balance by human ingenuity and determination, an eternal reminder that sometimes the fiercest side of humanity was not its capacity for war, but its capacity for sacrifice in the name of saving others.